What's up, everybody? It's Mick Manhattan, and this is the Scene Snobs channel. I am bringing to you every Monday the replay marathon, where we show all of last week's shows right in sequential order down the line. You can watch them all throughout the Monday and stay entertained. So make sure you're checking us out on the Facebook page every Monday, starting at 9 a.m. All right, thanks, everybody. And if you missed any of the shows, make sure you head over to thescenesnobs.com, where we have links to everything. Take care. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews. I am your host, Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob, and I am back again with a very special guest. The man is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, Australian, so he's already got a sexier accent than you'll ever get out of me. He has a new podcast coming out. It's named the same after his book, Money Grows on Trees, and it's coming out March 1st, so I want everybody to make sure to check it out. I'm expecting to get rich when I'm living. So slowly, but I'm going to put the work in. And Lloyd J. Ross is here. Thank you very much for joining me, sir.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm excited. So yeah, this is awesome. What's going on?
So yeah, I've just been really enamored by everything I've been reading about you and everything you've been doing. So what made you want to jump into podcasting? I mean, you have so much already going on. The side the side hustle alone, what you got what you're doing there. So podcasting is a whole different beast. What made you try and get into throw your hat in the ring?
Well, it was actually an accident. What happened was, great question. I'm still kind of figuring that out myself. No, what happened was, so back last year in September, I wrote my book, did an online course, released that, went really well. And I was actually on a lot of podcasts. So I was a guest on a lot of podcasts. And what happened was I was on Phil Better's podcast, Invest in Yourself. And we were just chatting away. And he said, man, you should do a podcast. And I was like, I don't know what. I'm just like, I've got this going on. I've got this and this. He said, you should really do a podcast. I'll help you. I was like, well, okay. So I was like umming and ahhing because I didn't want any more work. I was like, wow, that takes a lot of work, like anything else. It seems to be this whole other beast. And he said, I'll help you. So I said, well, okay, that's cool because I have no idea what I'm doing. So that's what he's done. He's really helped me a lot. And so I wouldn't be able to do it without him. But here's what I learned. I learned that people, that they're so popular podcasts. Like people are driving a lot, that's exactly why you have one, So I think I underestimated the popularity of them and how effective it can be in getting your message out there. So that's why I was like, you know what? If I'm already doing Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives, and YouTube and talking and Clubhouse, I may as well just talk and record and help, people learn about money. So there you go. So
absolutely. And and I love that because that's a great realm to get into, especially with podcasting. Is talking about money, talking about entrepreneurship, and how people I know for me it's a big thing because starting the Scene Snobs, I'm just over a year now, and it's grown into this thing where we have 26 shows. So
wow,
we have shows nightly. So it's become this beast that I'm trying to work into a viable business. So I found myself wanting to learn more about the business side of things and being an entrepreneur. And podcasting has helped me in a big way with that.
It would for sure, man. Definitely. 26 shows. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely turned into, I started with a couple of shows that I hosted.
Yeah.
And more people with shows like the concept. I wanted to build it into a network. And, they've just joined.
Wow.
And we've been killing it. So nightly, we're just always going.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's fantastic. I didn't know you had 20. That's incredible. Yeah. There you go. I mean, you know what it's like, right? Like anything you do in this world that's to get a good result or to be successful at anything requires consistency, discipline, time, patience, and that type of stuff. So like kicking off the podcast, I know it's going to be about doing the first 100 episodes, like that, getting to that first big milestone, I think is going to be exciting. So, just like anything else, it's going to be a whole, different thing. So I'm excited. It's going to be good.
Into it, not just talking about, and one thing I find with podcasting, it's a lot of fun, is like, a lot of the unknown. Like, yeah, I can talk about things that I enjoy, but then I get to talk to guests like you, who, not that I don't enjoy, who doesn't enjoy that, but I don't know. I'm not like, that's not my forte. So being able to talk to somebody new and interesting and learn something else is always a lot of fun for me. What do you hope to take away? Like, what kind of guests are you looking to have, or, kind of, extend yourself to learning new things on the show?
Yeah, well, it's funny because the reason why I was apprehensive to start a podcast in the first place is because I thought I had to have guest after guest after guest. And Phil said to me, man, you could just start off with yourself because you know enough about this topic. You could just throw out some episodes to help people and they'll listen to that. And then eventually you can get some guests on. I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I think I listened to Dan Henry's podcast and he was just doing 7-minute podcasts on some stuff he was talking about. I thought, well, I could do that. So that was the first step of, well, I need to take some audio of my knowledge into the world and deliver it through the podcast. So that was the objective, all around money, investing, which is something that a lot of people don't really understand, which I'm starting to understand even more and more, that, there's not a lot of financial IQ out there. And especially in Australia, there's no one really doing a major podcast in this area in Australia. There's a couple, but what I really want to do is get into the point where I can interview millionaires. So I know a fair few millionaires and a lot of them are my friends. And so I want to bring them on and interview them and just ask them how they found that money did grow on trees. What was their story as to how they acted around money, how they produced the money, what are they doing with the money, and just getting their perspective on it from someone who has had success in that area. And then do, episodes of Ask a Millionaire, and interview some people. So that's what I'm super excited about with that. So I think that's going to be valuable.
I'll tell you, even like going back and saying the guests too. I love having guests on. I love reaching out and talking to new people. But a lot of it started with me. That I found that if you're building up and you just have good content, like you have great conversations that people will be interested to joining in. Just in the comments or such. That attracts people more, and then attracts guests, because I would just bring on friends. Maybe some indie filmmakers that have small projects coming out, and I was like, I want to talk to them. That's interesting to me. Yeah. Keep going. And then it's built into this thing where, I don't want to say more prominent, but, maybe higher level guests than most, like that will bring sort of a prominence to the show or an awareness, have reached out and said, can we do an interview? Because we want to get to the point where they want to get past the interview so they can join in the shows and just talk about the fun stuff. Yeah.
It's
always like, so like it works out. It's like, I think if you're just genuine, natural, have a good time with it, that makes all the difference.
That's good. Great tips, because I need them. I'm going to need some of those tips. I it's funny because I have interviewed people before on Facebook Lives, but I've never done it through podcasts. It's really interesting going through this journey of, it's new. I went out and got a microphone, and then I tested different platforms, and thankfully Phil's there to help me throw it out through the different platforms of where it's going to be hosted. This is the branding, getting the logo done, the intro and outro is done. And it was just it's this cool project that I'm working on. And it's just it's like this little side thing, but I was just unaware of just how impactful, how big podcasting is. Like it's almost like I'm just uncovering the first layer of the onion, and then the onion's a bit bigger than what I thought. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So I think it's just evolving, and I guess that's awesome, and that's why I love entrepreneurship. You just never know what you're going to get,
So yeah, and the nice part about it is too, like you said, there's not always an awareness of investing, and you've got that knowledge. So even bringing on people who aren't in the investing world at all would be such a fortune of knowledge to them. Like, I can't wait to listen because I do want to learn more about that. I got a family to provide for and things like that. So
that's great. Well, you could be my first subscriber. There you go. Could have one, already in.
Absolutely, I will.
I
will say, going out there and talking and just enjoy yourself, man. If you're not enjoying yourself, don't worry about all that other stuff. When I started this, my son, all he said was into the microphone was like, listen to the Scene Snobs podcast. And that's still my my intro. That's
cool.
And I changed it. I changed it to a song. And a few people said, well, it was so much more fun when your son was just saying it.
Yeah, that's cool. So I like that.
And like my wife does and stuff like that. So again, if as long as you're genuine and you're having fun with it, like people will enjoy it. It doesn't, all the posh really doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good feedback, actually. I have his mentor, and he works with Dan Henry and Sam Ovens, which are the big guys in digital marketing. And he said, I was doing this video with him with his ads we're doing some years ago on Facebook, and he said, Lloyd, the number one key is to being on video or audio. Do you know what the number one your job is? I was like, to inform them? He's like, no. He said it's to entertain.
Yep.
Right? And I was like, damn, that's wise. Like, so ever since then, I've kind of just, if I'm doing a Facebook Live or doing an Instagram, TV or whatever it is, or even my podcast, I was like, what's up? Welcome to the show. It's just this energy and entertainment. And this obviously has to be some important stuff come out, especially when you're talking about money and investing. But I think the delivery of it is probably something that people in that area have never experienced with any high energy or fun, because it's typically done by a boring economist on the television. And that's what they're used to. I'm like, oh my God, like we need to bring some realness to this topic because I think it's more fun, right?
Well, and that's like the number one rule with everybody who works with the Scene Snobs. I say, like, your first thing has to be to entertain. I was like, if you're trying to force your opinions on somebody, things like that, I don't care if you have opinions. I don't care about that. That's fine. Again, that's part of being genuine. But you need to entertain, because at the end of the day, if you're coming in and you're just pushing your opinions on people and you're not entertaining, like, and our biggest rule was like, when the Capitol riots happened or when the protests were going on, a lot of people were down and they were upset. And, some of the shows were like, listen, we're just not up for it tonight. And I'm always fine with that. I'm like, take your time off, but I'm going on and I'm not going to talk about those things.
There you go.
And a lot of people are like, listen, you've been so much fun not having to watch the news. There's something I can
do. There you go.
That's my main goal, is like, I want people to come on and just feel like they're hanging out, they're having a good time, and learning something. If probably not from me, but they're learning something from somebody.
But what else are they going to listen? Like, there's a lot of stuff out there that I don't really want to listen to anymore. I mean, so I think I thought podcasting had its, like, I thought, podcasts have been around a long time. Surely they can't be things that people still, and I think more and more, I think audio is becoming even bigger and bigger and bigger. So, for those reasons you just mentioned, people are probably a bit tired of listening to the whole traditional media platforms. So they get the goods straight away to their ear, So
I think it's taken over as the entertainment, because I've been doing this 10 years.
There you go. Wow.
2011, and it was just a movie podcast. I knew nothing about it. There was a guy who had 3 microphones and was like, listen, we're doing a podcast. I'm like, what? You want me to sit and just talk about movie? Okay, I'll do that. And then I wound up, that became something. And then I moved on to another podcast for like 6 years. And then that became kind of a bigger thing. And then I left that and then I started this. So it's snowballed into this thing. And along the way watching it, I've seen it go from people just kind of doing this thing that seemed like a hobby to actually becoming viable business for people.
Yeah. Wow. There you go.
So it's
2011. No one would have been doing podcasting in 2011. What?
Yeah, it was again, I didn't even hear about it, and I didn't
Yeah.
start it. I had a friend who knew about them and was listening to some that existed and was like, "I have
Wow.
some microphones. I want to do a podcast." And I sat down, and then it went from there. It's just
There
kind
you
of
go. It's incredible.
learning more
It.
and more. And I started because I was a movie producer in LA for a while, and then I got into digital marketing,
There you
and I
go.
enjoyed it a lot. But I found in the digital marketing world, podcasts are being used quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's such
Yeah.
a big thing. So for you,
Yeah.
what besides getting into doing podcasting, but along your life within being an entrepreneur, how has podcasting maybe made itself aware to you over the years?
Well, it's really interesting because I mean I had listened to a few podcasts mainly around business. I think Gary Vaynerchuk, just with his episodes, the Ask Gary V show was kind of like my first experience with getting value from it because he had people like Tim Ferriss on and so on. And so I guess throughout business, I just certain select people I was listening to, like they would obviously throw out their podcast episode in their Instagram, whatever it might be. And I was needing some information on that particular topic to move forward or get something for my business. So that's what compelled me to listen to them, to get that one nugget. And I was just like, man, podcasting's for everyone else, but not for me. So because in our bigger business, we don't necessarily need it, or it's not something that we would have as a main marketing channel to get our message through. But when I wrote my book and recorded the audio book and built our online courses, straight away I was like, well, I need to get more people. I need to get through to more people the value that I can provide, so that then if they need to go further, they can actually invest in our books and courses. And it makes a lot of sense if you've got digital products to be doing podcasts.
And to go back to the beginning a little bit, so where did you start within the world of being an entrepreneur and investing and such? So
Okay.
how did you get into it?
Well, it's quite a story, but I actually went to university and did 3 degrees and
I
became a
will
lawyer.
say, because you have a new podcast, I don't mean to cut you off. You have a new podcast, abridged version, because I want to make sure people go and listen to you.
I'll do it very quickly because it is actually on the first episode of my podcast.
I want to make sure people are going to listen. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you go to the first episode, it is actually that you'll hit the story. But more or less, got out of corporate, went and worked with my dad, and I just fell into that sort of realm of entrepreneurship. But then I actually just got into online business, started marketing products online, and it was just this side hustle that turned into this main hustle. And it eventually ejected me from any traditional working environment, just from home. And it just grew into this beast and just helped us travel the world, build a massive portfolio in shares, and just gave us this freedom to just do what we wanted. And one thing led after another kind of happens when you go into that world. And a friend of mine just said, look, I can take this message and get it out further. So that's how the book and the courses were produced. So I have this other second business now that's just growing. So I've got 2, and I run a $1 million share portfolio for us. So it's, yeah, it's cool, man. Like, how about this? This is what I'll say. We did this course the other day. We're doing this like 5-day in-person course. It's the one that Robert Kiyosaki did. It's the one that Tony Robbins did. It's really famous. It's all over the world. It's called Money and You, right? And that's the original personal development course that all those guys did. And so got referred to it, went in there, and what was I going to say? I was off track. We're doing this course, and oh my goodness, what were we talking about?
Or just getting into, like, you were doing this course because you were getting started in, like with the investing and things like that. And so, like, it's from the side hustle turned into like your main hustle.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we signed up for this course, and what was I going to say? God, man, pull it on my podcast. But
when you were doing like courses like that, like how do they come about? Like, because I would never know where to find them. So like
a course like that?
Yeah, something like, because I'm on the outside, so like getting into like business, I would love to sit down and learn more about it. And I'm feeling, listening to your show, I definitely will. But like, I'm just wondering, like, where do you get into it with that? Like Gary Vee, I've heard of Gary Vee, I've listened to him, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like it might be a successful person's special club that I'm trying to get in.
Well, it's kind of strange. I guess the more you're around the world of business, you tend to get people referring things to you. Like this particular course, for whatever reason, I was telling that story, which is just eluded me, but it was that particular course we were referred to. But when you're in the world of business, you kind of just get earshot of different things happening. But how it kind of happened was, my sister introduced us to a product to market, and as soon as you start focusing on something like that, the things kind of open up. Like when you're blogging on Facebook about things you're doing in business, other things pop up. Throughout this company we're partnered with, they provide field training. So we had a lot of people that used to work for T. Harv Eker, who wrote the book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. He started training us. I remember winning a trip with the business to Hawaii, and we're sitting there in Hawaii in the Grand Wailea Resort in Maui, right? And then across the stage walks Darren Hardy, and he started training us. And Darren Hardy wrote The Compound Effect, right? The book. And Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, was part of the company. The guy who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus is part of the company. So just being with the right in the right environment for your business, depending which vehicle you choose, you get to rub shoulders with these types of people, and you are around people with tremendous amounts of income and money as well, and they know other people, so referrals start to come through. But picking up books I've always done that. I've always picked up books. Like even listening to Gary Vee, Tim Ferriss rolls on and says, "Look, you got to read, the E-Myth Revisited and Built to Sell." So I'm like, okay, go. And I still listen to Tim Ferriss. Like he's got a great podcast. He's a guy I would listen to if you want to get into business. Gary Vaynerchuk I listen to because he's all about business. Dan Henry's great. Russell Brunson's great. These are all the preeminent marketers of the world. Russell Brunson's the best in the world, right? So I think if you're wanting to get into business, reading Russell Brunson's books, expertsecrets.com secrets and traffic secrets, and then listening to his stuff, going to one of his events, live events like funnel hacking, you get around people like that, and it's easy to find on Instagram and mainly Instagram, but Facebook. You can get around Clubhouse now and go into Clubhouse and listen to some amazing people. Like I was in the other day listening to Elon Musk. I was listening to Grant Cardone talk about his, billionaire, billions, what is it called? The new show he's got.
Is it billions? Yeah.
Billions? Yeah, whatever it might be. I see. Undercover Billionaire is what it's called.
That's what.
And so I guess when you focus on those things and those characters and those people, it all comes alive. But the biggest thing that prevents people from getting into business, Mick, is that they don't have a product.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what they lack. And that was like the same as me. I was in a real estate business selling real estate, but I didn't have a specific physical or digital product to actually market through the internet. And I think once you get over that hurdle of, well, now I've got either a product with a network marketing company that's physical, that people use it and reuse it, I can build that. They do all the back end stuff. That seems like a good step for me. That was my first step. Yeah. I had a product. Then I could learn all about marketing, and it thrust me into that world. When you've got a digital product like a book or a course, so you've got to create it yourself. And that did take me, I needed the financial freedom first to have the time to be able to do that. So I guess to answer your question, how do you get into that stuff? How do you get around it? You have to have a reason to. Like, for example, if you're big in podcasting, so it's like, how do I leverage Russell Brunson's marketing stuff and Dan Henry's stuff and these guys, and how do I apply it to the podcast to get it out more? How do I, those types of things. You start to explore that, and then you would write a book about podcasting, or you write a book about, and then you got a digital product, and then you're like, how do I get my digital product out? And so it's an evolution.
Okay.
That's a really long answer, but yeah. It's really...
No, I love that. Listen, all of this is great advice. So I'm actually siphoning you for great advice. But is there any, for anybody starting out, because I know after 2020, a lot of people out of work, dealing with a lot of things, especially here in the U.S., and they're taking this time to kind of, get their creative juices flowing and maybe kind of go into business for themselves. Are there any, would you say, tangibles that they need to adopt, or just ways of doing things to kind of change their way of thinking and getting into being more, to help them become more successful?
Yeah, well, I think it seems to be rather popular to be an entrepreneur now more than ever, I would say. And I think having the pandemic and COVID come along, it was like a great awakening for people, saying, well, I'm really unprepared. I just had one income. It was my job that I've now lost. And whoops, so I think the rise of the tech boom, like all the tech companies just rose dramatically in value throughout the pandemic. So the market went up instead of down in those companies. So like the likes of Amazon and so forth and Apple and whatever it might be, there's a ton that just exploded. And it's because I think more and more we actually are becoming more isolated in general. And the pandemic just sped it up. It just sped up this whole, like, we really spend a lot of time online now and we go to the real world to take it. In the old days, it was like, I'm going to have a break from the real world and go online for a bit. Now it's like, I'm going to take a break from the online world and go to the real world for a bit. So that's sped things up in terms of how we are evolving as a culture. And what that means is a lot of the attention, the eyeballs are no longer out there on billboards or televisions or radio. Whatever. The eyeballs are on phones, right? Or they're on an app or they're on phones. So Apple sort of commands pretty much all the attention of human beings. So objectively what that means is there's been a move to being able to start an online business because that's where people's attention is. And so what's great about that for people who are wanting to do something different, live a bigger life, have a level of financial freedom, or I don't know, just see what potential they've got that's untapped, or get into business for themselves, whatever it is, create something. You can do it so simply now from your mobile phone. Like, we built our business beginning from our mobile phone, and we pretty much can run it from that, which is ridiculous. Like in the old days, your parents, when they're starting a business, like, you get an office, get some people, get some phones, get some staff and pay the rent and it was challenging because there's a lot of heavy overhead costs. But now all you need is Wi-Fi on your phone pretty much, because you can literally, borrow digital products, borrow physical products from other companies, do the marketing for them through organic social media channels, get people buying your stuff and get paid by the company like that, right? Like ClickBank or network marketing, whatever it is. So you can actually launch. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people can launch. Lots. You get this massive dopamine hit, like, oh my God, I hate my boss. I'm going to fire my boss. I'm going to do it. I've been watching Gary Vee. All right, I'm going to go. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to start my business. And everyone launches. Everyone's good at launching.
Yeah.
But what, right? Everyone's great at launching. But what happens is the excitement falls away. The dopamine kind of comes away, right? You're like, oh, and then you hit your first hurdle and you're like, oh, this is a little bit harder than what I thought. Like, I was excited back then. Now I'm like, oh, I have to do this, or someone said no, or I have to. And so you go through this moment of like deception, like inception at the start, like inception, and then deception, right?
Oh yeah.
And for everyone who's listening, if you make it from deception across the bridge of hardship and the obstacles and the excitement's gone and no one's watching you anymore, and it's all that, like your family's not believing in you and your friends don't believe in you and you're doing different things and they're still at the local, bar drinking every weekend and you're not because you're at home hustling and trying to build your business. If you can make it across that bridge, you get to what we call transformation. And once you get there, you develop habits of success, which is showing up when you're not excited, night times, early mornings, doing things that your friends aren't doing, not going out as much. All those things are important, and you're applying it and getting wins, you'll be in transformation. And once you get to transformation, it means you are consciously confident. It means you're kind of good. And you're like, okay, I've got my shit together now. I know what I'm doing. And then you become unconsciously confident, which means you just do things like success becomes like driving a car. Just like hand out the window, cooking eggs in the back, having a cup of tea, and still driving and reading the newspaper at the same time. I mean, you can do it. Same as success, right? But a lot of people never make it. They never make it past deception. They just quit. So I think the value I want to give those people is pick a vehicle, pick something you want to do, but proceed to do it when the excitement runs out.
That's amazing advice, and that's something for me kind of going through, and like, because again, I started this in October 2019, and it was before COVID. But before then, it was a concept that I had been planning for years. So like, but I just launched in October 2019. The Scene Snobs was a Facebook page where I just reviewed movies and just on Facebook since 2013, and like kind of grew into this thing that I knew what I wanted to be. And then planning it all out, putting a website together and stuff like that. So hearing you say that feels good to me, because I have tried to adopt principles, not so much put rules on myself, but adopt principles as I go along the way. And you've actually touched down on a lot of them, like any hurdles that I had to learn how to pivot, and like, how am I going to where do I go from here if I, hit this hurdle and I can't get over it? Like, what, how do I get there? And also be open, for me, a big thing I keep telling myself is be open to just opportunity. When opportunity is thrown my way, where it's going to lead. So take a chance,
Yeah, so, totally. That's really good advice. I think that, God, just touching on that and made me think of something, which is when I thought about, like when I created my book and my course, I wanted to be on more podcasts. And weirdly, what happened was when you focus on stuff, the universe conspires to help you. It's really weird. You would probably agree with me, right? Oh, yeah. When it starts to throw things and you're like, wow, that I can't believe that happened. So I got this random message on Facebook Messenger, and I never really respond. Like, no one really responds to those ones sitting in your others folder, or it was a spam one. I was like, what's going on here? And I opened it up and it was a website link. I was like, here we go. And it's a typical message. Anyway, it says, because I was looking to be on more shows, and it comes through and it says, hey, we've got this new website called podcastbooker.com. It's going to help you. I'm like, that's weird. Like, I just asked, from above, and it just landed in my inbox. I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. Like what you just said about opportunity, I opened it up and explored it. I didn't just ignore it. Then I went and created a profile, which is a bit of a pain in the butt. And then I started to go to and start mailing the ones on there, right? Okay. Yeah. And that took time. And I'm like, I'm trying to fit it in with everything. I'm like, oh God, like I hope this well. I'm going to get on more podcasts. And a few people started replying. And then all of a sudden, Phil, this guy comes on and goes, hey man, yep, let's have you on. I'm like, cool, this Phil guy looks awesome. Jump on. Phil and I are chatting. He's now helping with the podcast. He introduced me to you. We're on your scene stuff. So I guess what you said before, when you said when opportunities come, they appear to be like a little bit of hard work, but you got to dig them out. Yeah. And then one thing, exactly what you said, leads to another, which leads to another. And there's this compound effect of the snowball that builds up. So I don't know. I think you're 100% right about that.
And I find that in podcasting, filmmaking, because I talk to a lot of independent filmmakers, and when I see, you can't hold grudges. You can very easily fall out with somebody or whatever, and then just kind of do your own thing. That's fine. But like when you hold grudges, I've found all it does is take away, or it can take a hit on your reputation. So I try to, wish you luck. I'll support you if you need to support, no problem. But don't, when I see other podcasters or like I said, if somebody pops up and says, hey, listen, I'd love to be on your show and talk about my new project. Sure, come on a new show. But I'll hear other podcasters say, I'm not really interested. They're not going to get me any listens. And I'm like, that's not what it's about.
Wow.
Maybe you'll get more eyes on their project. And, that's so important. And you paying it back for when, the guests that you do want come around and say, okay, I'll help this person. And that's why I do it. But everybody I've had on the show has always been a positive. That's awesome. In a way that's, if I had somebody and I promoted their project, they'll come back on because we had a great time together. And that's a positive. I've made a friend.
Totally.
I had a filmmaker yesterday I went and saw in person. He was at the local theater signing copies of his new movie that just came out. And he was like, come out. I've never met him in person. We've only met, he's been on the show like 6 or 7 times. He's been on tons of other shows on the network. And we've become friends. We talk back and forth. And he hits me up. He's like, I'm going to be in your town. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this signing. Come hang out. So we do. And like, I realized I've made this good friend who I have great conversations with, and I've never been in the same room until yesterday.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it?
And that's
incredible.
A great connection, though, and you never know what you're going to get doing this.
Never know what you're going to get, you know. And I think most connections now happening online anyway, and then it just sort of forms to be offline. It used to be the other way around. I think so. That's really cool. I love that. That's great advice too for me, who's kicking off a podcast. So thank you for giving me that.
And, you just never know. You might make a friend that you didn't know you were going to make.
That's right. Yeah.
That's always a point.
Good to have friends all over the world.
So yeah, I mean, I wish you all the best, man. I can't wait to listen to it, because I mean,
thanks, man.
I'm gonna take away a positive right there just by learning, which is an important factor. So and I want everybody to go check out, because if you go to your website, which is it's lloydjross.com, correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, go to lloydjross.com. Right on there, you can go check out Money Grows on Trees. Get the book, or get the audio book. I love audiobooks. I'll sit there and listen to that. And did you do it? You recorded the...
I read the audiobook, yeah. Yep.
All right, there you go. So you're going to get a bonus Australian accent there. And that's, you know, us Americans, we love our accents. So
there you go.
Have enough of them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and now you're going to have the podcast When It Grows on Trees. I love that.
Yeah.
Going forward, I want to... I tend to end having some fun on the show, asking some fun questions, and we are a movie-based podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
So I got to ask you, who are some of your favorite fictional millionaires in movies?
Wow. Well, here's the thing. I love movies. Like, I freaking love movies. I was in a car the other day with one of my future brother-in-law, and I was shocked that he hasn't seen movies like Saving Private Ryan and all these classics. I was like, what the heck? I almost like, what? Anyway, so I'm a really big movie buff. So
what's your favorite first? I want to hear your favorite.
My favorite movie?
One of them.
Well, I'm going to give you top three. Okay. I mean, I love Saving Private Ryan, Gladiator, and Braveheart. Love them. They're amazing movies.
Awesome.
Right? Yeah, big blockbusters. But you know, I mean, I've got so many. I love, you know, any Guy Ritchie stuff. I love. He's awesome. I mean, and I love it all. But I'm just like, get the pandemic go. I want to get some good movies going. But who's my favorite fictional? My favorite financial fictional character in a movie?
Yeah.
Good question. Oh, you just jogged my memory, by the way, while I was telling that story about why I go to that event. But it's interesting, so I'll bring it up because it actually has to do with this. Weirdly, we're doing this course online, and someone says, Lloyd, you know, the question was, how are you about money? And I was like, that we actually had to identify a character to it about how we are with money. So we had to formulate this character, and then people apply it. And some guy goes, oh, my character's kind of like, you know, like Gil from The Simpsons, like kind of like never gets a sale, sad, doesn't, you know, like depressed. I was like, oh, really? I'm like, I feel like Indiana Jones when it comes to money. Like I'm swinging from vines, it's an adventure. I'm like, you know, money is this adventure where I'm kind of like getting some and miss it. And he said, that's amazing. I want to be like Indiana Jones with money. Anyway, so that's kind of how I feel with money. That's what I was alluding to in terms of mindset. But my fictional character in movies around money, I have this pretty woman, Richard Gere.
Okay.
Right? He's kind of like, he's understated badass with money in that movie if you watch it.
Yeah. Oh, that's because he handles everything that way. You know, like you can tell like this dude is a millionaire. And even if he falters and his business partner is upset and like, this. And he's just kind of like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm just taking a break.
Yeah. He's bad. I like him. He would be one of my favorite financial fiction characters out of a movie, I think.
I mean, I might go to is probably Bruce Wayne, even though he'd be broke.
Oh, and Bruce. Yeah. He would be my
broke in no time. And I think they even showed that in some of the movies. Like he just goes broke because it's like,
Bruce Wayne.
Only about Batman.
Yeah, it's true. I think, it's a nice mix of those two. I often ask that. I say, because in my business, when I talk to people, I use Batman as an example. Like when they say, well, how do I do this when I'm working full time and I've got this side hustle? And I'm listen, you're Bruce Wayne during the day. And then at nighttime, you put the cave, you're Batman, and you go to work on that, right? And they just say, okay, that makes sense. So there you go.
Well, let me ask you, because I've found that, and sorry, I know I'm keeping you going, but I'm so
Fine.
fast.
Yeah.
For me, I was never a calendar guy.
Okay.
I'll go by schedules. I don't mind setting up a schedule, but I never really kept a calendar until I started doing this.
Yeah.
And now my calendar is like every 15 minutes if I have something. So that
Amazing.
and I find like I've scheduled even when I sleep.
Yeah.
Each night is different because we have a certain amount of shows that go into the night that I have to broadcast and stuff like that. So, and I teach my son because he's homeschooled right now because of the pandemic and everything. But one day he'll go back and I'll be in the clear there. That will just add more to sleep.
Freedom.
I love them, but right now it's like, so like I even have to schedule like, all right, we're going to work on this for this amount of time, this amount of time, because I have to work on this. Like even my posts, I have an alarm going off telling me, okay, you got to post this at this time.
That's cool. Yeah.
Important is a calendar, especially when it comes to a financial way of living.
Well, incidentally, like there's mine. Like I do the same. You are in my calendar, even though like we had an appointment that I went over time whilst I missed it, but I run my life the same way. So I'm like in this morning, it's like Mick podcast is in there, right? So it's, you know what? There are people within my organization that I teach and coach, and what blows me away is the amount of people that don't have one. And you might think, well, why does that surprise you? Like people are free and they love, because freedom comes from structure, incidentally. And it's weird, it's this weird paradox, but the more structured you are, the more freedom you have, because it's a freedom of your mind. Because if it's on paper, now again, I'm not a big fan of paper diaries because you can't take stuff with you, right, all the time. You can't take it with you. It's a pain. You can take it on your phone with you. And what's great about I use Google Calendar. So if you're wanting to know which app, I just use Google Calendar. You can put everything in there, like what you said about sleep and stuff. I put like workout in the morning, and then read in the evening at 9 o'clock. I put read. So it's all in. It's called a default diary, and it's where you kind of defaulting to the most important things in your life you want to work on, that you get progress from. And if you don't have it in there, what you would know, it doesn't get done, basically. So there's the old saying like, "Show me your diary, and I'll show you your future," right?
Sorry, I know I'm cutting you off, but I'm so excited. I get excited, so just bear with me. One thing is, you mentioned earlier when I asked you how your day was going there in the beginning, and you were like, it's not too early here. It's 8 o'clock. And I'm like, I talk to so many different podcasters and nothing against them and filmmakers. 8 o'clock for them is early, but I agree with you. When you said 8 o'clock, I was like, yeah, that's like my day has already been going.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I mean, only because every day I get up at 5:30. My alarm goes up at 5:30, and for most of the time, right? Like on Sundays it doesn't, but 4:50 it goes off twice a week, which is interesting. So I get up, between 4:50 and 5:30 every day. Yeah. So what happens in my diary is I get up and do 1 hour of my business straight away to get my productivity. I sink into it early. I do 1 hour of work because it's my freshest. Then we'll break with my wife. She's so good. She does the same thing. And then we go to the gym. We'll do 1 hour working out at the gym, right? And come back. By the time we get back, it's like 8 a.m., okay? Close to 8 a.m. And then I don't usually do things from 8 to, but my day starts at 9 usually. Because I'll have breakfast, hang out, relax a bit, and then bang, a lot of stuff starts from 9. And then, in the evening, I've got Facebook Live scheduled, or this or that. I'll do episodes in the day, or things happen. And then at nighttime, I bookend my day with reading. And that's usually about, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I'll read for an hour and then hopefully go to sleep at some reasonable hour. But that's called bookending. Our day begins very much the same and ends very much the same, doing things we enjoy. And I think if you bookend your life with your diary and you carry this around with you, everything I do goes in here. Like I'll be in the car, like, Siri, put in this, boom, 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 boom. I don't know how people progress or succeed without a diary.
I 100% agree with you. I've always felt, without living with one, I always, like I said, I kept a schedule. Like, Google Calendar now is like my way of life. And I tell so many people, I'm like, I don't care if you have one show
Yeah.
shows or however it works, get it scheduled, because you will mess up. You're gonna
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the best things that people can learn, and you probably do, you might have a whole different, better system, obviously with your experience, but what I tend to do is have a Calendly link, and I use my Calendly a lot. So running two businesses, certain people need your time and want your time. And so I have that automate my calendar a lot of the time. When they come through and buy my book, it sends automate. Oh, I've got, I set up a lot of automation, but there's a Calendly link down. They book a call, 15 minutes or whatever it might be. And so my diary is getting fed to me sometimes automatically with what I have on, which is the most important stuff. But if someone else wanted to jump on and have a chat, you can send them a Calendly link. It'll populate in your diaries across all diaries. And I don't know, it just saves you having to go and manually send them this or that. I think it's effective.
Yeah, there are so many great tools now.
And great tools, yeah.
Coming out. And I mean, I remember when I started doing videos to connect people with the pandemic and we were going live, we were using Discord, and I had to put one guy on a monitor next to me in my studio, and that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the monitor. I'm not even talking to, a video chat, because there was no side by side.
Yeah.
And then
Discord, there you go.
And StreamYard blew up because StreamYard has been great for, adding banners and things like that. So
I reckon StreamYard's the best.
It's been so good and really kind of held everything together for me. So but you see just the technology and how fast it grows to help keep people in business.
Productive. Yeah. It's StreamYard saved us in our business because Facebook stopped doing Facebook Live interviews. And there was a moment there we're like, what are we going to do? And StreamYard popped up out of the blue, and now it's just this great tool. So I think, there's some amazing tools, but I think people just don't spend the time to learn them. They're doing things, and you'll learn this in the likes of Build to Sell and the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. It's this big Tim Ferriss books that he loves. And in that book, it says you've got to systemize and automate your business. And I think systemizing and automating elements of your life can be very effective in creating freedom for you. So, for example, get Whole Foods to deliver your food to your house instead of grocery shopping. Get I don't know, like, what else is there? Like, I guess automate, delegate, or eliminate certain things in your life. Like a lot of people don't delegate to their own kids to do their own stuff. Like they're just running around doing everything, and busyness becomes this badge of honor. And the problem with being busy is that you are unproductive and you can't scale. And the same thing happens with your life. If you're always doing the washing, always doing the cleaning of your house, always washing your own car, always, doing all those things, you're going to be stuck there. To scale, you need to get out of that. So you need to hire someone to do or pay someone to do that. And that's why the likes of Fiverr, Guru.com, WeWork, and these businesses are popping up. Airtasker. We had IKEA furniture come the other day. I'm like, let's just outsource this. I don't have time for 6 hours to build this chest of drawers, man. What the heck? Like, outsource, $70, come in, boom. It's just, those are the types of things you need to learn in business. And it is money too, because people are like, well, I don't want to spend the 70. I'm like, well, here's what you need to do. Write down all the things that you are great at and put an hourly rate next to them and identify your own hourly rate. So let's say, for example, your value is like, well, my 1 hour for me is worth $100. Okay, cool. So now you've got something to work with. So now if there's things that pop up, like your car is going to take an hour to wash and it's $45 for someone to do it, you need to outsource that because it's less than your hourly worth. And that's a fast way to decipher what you outsource and what you do yourself.
That's a great point. I would never even think of that. But that's why I run a movie podcast and you about finances. And that's even more reason for everybody to listen to Money Grows on Trees when it starts on March 1st. So where can we find it going forward?
That's a great question. Phil has all these answers. He's helping me with the podcast. But it'll be on iTunes, it'll be on Apple Podcasts. All the places you would find podcasts, it'll be. And we're going to add a little section to the website. And then anyone who goes to my Instagram, you're going to see that there's a story highlight there, and there'll be a feature to jump on the podcast there. There'll be a link. So my Instagram, my Facebook, social media, but all the podcasting, the main channels, the main platforms, you'll find it there. Money Grows on Trees. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be excited about delivering it. It's going to be some fun stuff delivered with a lot of fun and energy, things that you want to know. So please subscribe.
Absolutely, and I thank you for the tips now. And I can't wait to hear more going forward. So, we're gonna make sure in the descriptions, all the links are in there. So if you're listening or you're watching, you can go check out the website. You can go check out the links. More from Lloyd J. Ross, financial guru, as I'm going to be calling you. Make sure March 1st you are listening. Money Grows on Trees podcast. So it's going to be coming out.
Amazing.
I want to thank you, Lloyd, so much for coming on the show and talking to me today. This has been fantastic.
Man, I want to thank you for having me on. It's a privilege. It's great. You're a beast podcaster. I'm just thrilled that you would have me on the show. So thank you. Thanks to the audience for listening. And see you again.
Well, anytime you want to come back on, my friend. You said you're a movie buff, so we'll put you to the challenge.
Oh man, I love movies. Love movies. Yeah, that sounds good.
Again, it's been fantastic. I cannot wait. Everybody, make sure you're checking it out. Head over to thescenesnobs.com. Check out any one of our shows and our full schedule. I am Mick Manhattan, Scene Snob. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you guys soon. And that's our show, everybody. Thanks for listening. I am Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob. We always appreciate you guys tuning in and commenting along and everything else. Go check out this show or any of our other shows on thescenesnobs.com. Thescenesnobs.com. We love you. You guys are awesome. And if you would like, follow and subscribe to our social media. That really helps us go a long way. And please spread the word. Tell your friends. Have them come in. We love feedback and everything else. So everybody, you have a great day. Again, thanks for listening. Thescenesnobs.com. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.